Hello.
Hi, am I the only one here?
No, I have some people on here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
Yeah. Hi.
So far.
Hello.
Let's see.
How do you change this
Now I can see 3 people.
What do you mean?
background?
Background.
Mylene, are you asking that? I'm not sure.
My daughter's helping me.
There you are.
Oh.
And I have 1, 2, 3.
Could you put headphones?
Oh, more people are joining.
Because I can barely hear
We'll give it a few minutes until we can
Go in.
see how many people will join. It's right now 2:30. There's Anna. Oh, somebody just left. Oh, I like it that way. Can everybody hear me? Okay, I've got a lot of people with their microphones off, which is perfectly fine. I do see that Molly's here, and Molly, I don't know if you can hear me or not because I can't see you have your screensaver on. So if somebody asks a question that I'm not really exactly sure, I'm going to defer to you so you can answer that one.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. So we can go ahead and get started. Does anybody have any particular questions that they want to ask as the first question of the day? Okay, then I've made some special cue card questions up. Some fake questions, well, they're not fake questions. They're questions that we've been asked on a regular basis lately that we just kind of want to make sure everybody understands a little bit more about what their day should look like. So the most important question that we keep getting asked is how much time in a day would students spend on schoolwork? And it's going to look a lot different than your brick and mortar school. So if you have a K through about a second grader, 1 to 2 hours is about what they should be spending, unless you have some art activity or their science activity is so interesting that they spend extra time on it. 1 to 2 hours is about how long you'll spend during the day. Now that does not mean that you will spend 1 to 2 hours in a block time. Your kindergartner or your first grader may need 30 minutes and another break in between that before they do the next subject or the next lesson. And that's okay. But if you compiled it all together, about 1 hour to 2 hours is a good rule of thumb for your kindergarten of second grade. Now, when you get to 3rd through 6th, 7th grade, about 2 to 3 hours is about how long it would take them. They may do these in 1 hour blocks or 1.5 hours or whatever, but it should take them about 2 to 3 hours to finish their work each day. And that'll fluctuate based on how long the lesson is or how long the activity is or how much reading is involved, but that's a good rule of thumb. And then your high schooler, your 8th grade through high school is a good 3 to 4, sometimes 5 hours each day. That does not mean you have to work on every single subject every day, but the good thing to do is to do math and reading every day. Even if they're just doing snippets or small sections of reading, it's just good for them to do that every day. Sometimes you may say science, let's just do Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Wednesday. And for social studies, history, let's do, Wednesday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Thursday. And they can do a little bit more, maybe 2 lessons in those days so that they don't have to open that book every single day. Okay, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, does that answer some of those burning questions about time restraints and what should be spent doing? Does anybody have any questions off of that? No? I know, I'm like, I thought I might get a question out of that.
Hey,
Well-
this is Jennifer in Kodiak. I can always think of a question.
Fantastic. Tell me, Jennifer.
Because, okay, I've done 2 days of homeschool. Day 1 was awesome. Day 2 was terrible. And I'm trying to just just go with it. So I guess my question would be, how long do I'm already, there's this little voice in my head going, you're not getting enough stuff done every day. So how long before I listen to that voice? I mean, do I wait 6 weeks? Do I wait 12 weeks? Should I never listen to it? Like,
Honestly, never listen to it. Never.
okay.
Some days you're going to feel like you got nothing done. And the things they learned was whether or not they were sitting beside you learning how to measure things out for cooking. And you sat down and you read a book that was maybe a nonfiction book about a science topic. And maybe it has nothing to do with the science that you're learning in your science. But if you're reading a science book and they're learning something, then you got schoolwork done.
Right.
Now, the thing is, some days they're going to be more apt to want to sit down and do their work, especially at a younger age. And some days they're going to not want to sit down at all. And you have to get a little bit more creative in that area. You know what math they've been working on. You know what science they've been working on. Try to integrate it into whatever they're choosing to do that day. And that's not to say that you don't say, well, we do have to do a few math problems. The good part about it is one of the things I do with my kids that I did with them at the much younger ages was, okay, I know this paper has 20 questions on it. If you can do the 10 I circled and you get them all correct, you don't have to do the other 10. They totally think they've cheated the system. And they actually did their math, and as long as they get them right, then they learned it to the extent that they needed to learn that skill. And they really feel like they got away with something intriguing. So does that kind of answer your question?
That does a lot. And that's how I would treat kids that I work with in my job. I just need to remember that my kid is also a kid.
Yeah,
like, that sounds
exactly.
dumb, but like, I can do the same things with her that I would do at work. So yes.
Exactly, yes. And we have good days and we have bad days. Sometimes we're far more productive than we are other days. So they're gonna have those days as well. And that's okay. Hi, Molly. Does anybody else have another question? No? Okay, let's see what else I had. Online or book curriculum, which one's for me? That's a really good question that we kind of ask whenever you called for your SLP. We always just kind of say, we're going to kind of find the combination that fits you or fits your kid's learning style. So if you find that something isn't working, let us know. That's kind of our job, is to help you facilitate what's going to help your child learn the best. If they're more of a hands-on learner, then we don't want to do a whole bunch of online learning. We want the book curriculum so that they're doing more labs and hands-on activities. Okay. Any other questions?
How do I know if I'm teaching what I'm supposed to be teaching?
Oh, let's see. Well, I might let you answer that, Molly. The main thing is, as long as you're meeting what would be the state standards, and those would come with your SLP. And also in your book, most of the books at least meet the national standards. And I say most, I would say 99% of the curriculums meet national standards. And as long as you're following the basic topics of those lessons, sometimes you may have a better activity to do to really teach that lesson, and that's fine. So to know if you're meeting those standards would be to look back at those state standards that we send with the SLP papers. And if you need a copy of those, we can send you an extra copy.
And just so everyone has a little bit of feel for why Kimberly is doing the presenting. So I'm the principal of PACE, and I've been with PACE for 11 years, I guess. But this is actually the first year I am full-time homeschooling my kids. And Kimberly, of course, has been homeschooling for what, 9 years then?
Well, I have an 8th grader, yeah, so 9 years.
So 9 years. So that's why I'm deferring to her, because she has it down pat and has had all that wonderful experience.
I don't know if I have it down pat. We learn something new every year. But I think the biggest thing is, a lot of the questions are more like that stressed out question, and it's more take a deep breath and just remember they're kids and they learn so much through play, especially at the little ages. And then as they get older, if they're having trouble, my kids pretty much work independently, but they leave things blank. So when I go to grade papers, that's when we talk about whatever section they've left blank or whatever skill they didn't quite understand. That would move me on to another question. Oh, what should I expect my child to be able to do on their own? Anybody who's coming from a brick and mortar school, especially if they're older, even middle school, I got a call from a parent just saying, I'm really frustrated they can't do their work. They can't read the lesson and do the work. I'm like, yes, they're at the age where they can read the lesson and do the work, but they're used to sitting in a classroom and having the teacher teach the lesson and then do the work. So it's very difficult for them. You're on a learning curve and they're also on a learning curve. So you have to show each other a little bit of grace and just say, okay, I'm going to read the lesson to you for a little while, for a few weeks, and then I'm going to let you read the lesson, and then I'm going to ask you what you read to me. It's kind of getting into a new routine of not having the teacher teach the whole thing. And that's something that is going to take a little bit of time. It's going to be frustrating at the very beginning, and that's okay. Take breaks. Say, you know what? We're both getting upset. Let's step away from this for a little while. We'll come back to it in an hour. Go do something fun that you enjoy, and enjoy your day. Any other questions from that part?
Circling back to the state standards, looking at some of those, especially for like the social studies and history, I mean, that looks pretty ridiculous for a second grader. I mean, what exactly are we supposed to hit, like all of those little markers or some of those? Or I mean, I don't even think that the teachers are going to hit most of those markers, to be honest.
Molly, I might let you handle that one.
Well, I just saw Natalia shaking her head, and she is a classroom teacher. So do you want to share your thoughts on that, Natalia? That would be great.
Do your best. We're not going to cover all standards by no means. Standards are written for ideal situation, for ideal teacher, for ideal kids. We're not an ideal situation. We're in a real situation. And just read the material in advance, and you will cover, believe it or not, you will cover every single standard you realized or not.
And the good thing about those standards is lots of times they kind of repeat. They just may add more to that standard. So even if you skip a little bit of something and you didn't actually get to every single one of them in second grade, by the time you get to third grade, there will be a chapter in something where you actually end up covering that standard.
Okay.
So I would say shoot for 75, 80, 85%, and you'll be way above the curve on what they're understanding and learning.
Yes, and if I will second on that, again, I've been a classroom teacher for 20 years, and when I know if I didn't cover this, it's okay because I learned this before, I will teach this next year, but homeschool is a little bit different. Do your best and just, as Kimberly said, have fun. And they will learn. Just find some movies on the YouTube, on the PBS Kids, and they will learn faster than we are, it's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody else have any more questions off of that discussion or from a different one?
Are those standards in the binder that I just picked up today?
No, they should have come with your SOP. I'll be more than happy to pull up your SOP and email you your standards.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay. Let me write down what I'm doing with your name here before I forget.
Are we?
Go ahead.
So I've been assigned a teacher in Craig, and I asked just recently if we could switch to Wicker in Ketchikan. They said that we have to stick to who we were assigned to. Is that true?
Molly?
So right now we're having a bit of a hard time with the number of enrollments we have and the number of teachers we have. So we're trying to hire more teachers. At this time, Jen Wicker is pretty full with students. We can see what we can arrange. But at this moment, I would have to say, yes, whatever you were told would probably be what needs to stay until we can figure out who we hire and where we're hiring.
Okay.
Sorry about that. And we can talk more about it if you want to send me an email.
Okay.
Any more questions? How's
I
the
have
weather in
one.
Quebec? What's
I
your
have one for you.
What's your question, Molly?
It's not on your list either.
Great.
Okay, so you kind of had mentioned, or someone else had mentioned, okay, I've had a really good day and a really bad day, and I've just got to be understanding when there are really bad days. So how have you in the past dealt with the really bad days, like for yourself and for your kiddos?
For myself, I close the book. I'd be like, we're done. And then I would find something. We'd either get outside. If it's freezing cold outside, we'd just pull open a board game. They're just as educational, just maybe not in the same subject we were trying to get through. But then, you know, the next day they may be far more receptive to the science curriculum, and you may make it through 2 or 3 lessons. But that day, science wasn't it, and you just move on to a board game. Or, you know, my kids love charades, and so I would just have, you know, like a whole little list of charades papers written, and they do silly stuff, you know, like be a camel or whatever. And they thought it was fun. And sometimes we could make it back to science later, or whatever subject it was that we were losing it on. Sometimes I didn't want to go back to it, and I would just say, oh, we'll just move that little lesson over. Because what you'll find is in your homeschool year, I find we end up with far more school days. We don't always take the 2 weeks at Christmas. Some days I'm like, well, Dad's at work. Let's do your favorite subject. And so we work more through that subject, and then end up having more time during a day to do 2 lessons in a subject they don't really like, but I'm there to do it with them. And that kind of has fixed our schedule throughout the year, and they end up finishing on time, just like, you know, the regular school year. And I'm also the mean mom who lets them start their schoolwork, or maybe encourages them to start their schoolwork in the summer. And Molly's laughing because she makes fun of me, but they find that at Christmas, they're like, wow, I'm way ahead of where you wanted me to be. I'm like, yes, you are. So that's nice. Any more questions?
So when we hand in the student work, is it going to go directly to the teacher, or is it going to go through a middleman?
You'll email it directly to your teacher.
Okay.
And it's just, you know, your scanned your notes app on your phone. You can take a picture of work. If it's an online, you'll do a progress report. And if you have any questions about steps of getting through that or whatever, you can call your teacher and they'll walk you through that. But it's just 2 pages per class each semester.
Okay.
Is there a particular guideline that we should use when it comes to grading, or what are things that we should look for?
Depending on how old your kids or kids?
8.
8. I would mainly just grade. I would grade daily work for their understanding, and then I would just look at their test grades to be able to give them a grade. That's pretty much what I've done their whole time. I don't really grade their daily work. I tell them what was wrong, and we go through and correct it. But the things I actually take for a grade is just their tests, or any middle of the chapter, you know, cumulative questionnaires or whatever that they have in the middle of the chapters, those type of things. Those are the only things I actually grade for a grade to put towards their grade. But then I give them kind of that work grade added in. I don't give them grades for their daily work.
Okay.
That probably wouldn't work for me as a student, because I'm a C average test taker, and like I would get A's on all of my work, but when it comes to tests.
Right. So if you have a kid like that, or like if your kid's like that, then I would take their daily grades. If they do better when they're just doing the daily work than when they have that test that just makes them a little bit more anxious, then I would do that, because then that gives them the true average. My kids haven't had that trouble, but they've never been in a classroom to feel that anxiety. So when they take a test, they just, you know, go to the kitchen table and take their test. They don't have any stress related to it. So they haven't had that problem. But if you do have a kid who's not a great test taker, take those daily grades, because they are actually used to incorporate that average of that grade.
Okay.
Yeah. Any more questions? Like Stephanie Stewart? No. I think that might be all the questions that we had kind of made up. Well, we didn't make them up, but we had put together.
If we want to do field trips or anything with like other parents, is there a, I don't know, minimum number that we have to go someplace, or can we just go with our other parent that has kids, and or do we have to organize it with whoever we want to do something with? I don't know if you understand my question.
Are you meaning just other homeschool parents?
Yeah, she's in the meeting, you can't see her, but I have a friend who's also got her kids in the program, and if we wanted to say my brother is a firefighter or will be, and he works at a station, if we wanted to do a thing where we go to the station and talk to all the firefighters and the EMT people, do we have to organize something, or do we have to have a certain amount of kids to do that?
No, that would be up to wherever you were going. So, you know, if the fire department's like, well, we really prefer to do it in larger groups so we have fewer field trips or smaller groups. But if you wanted to do something and it was going to need a larger group, you were welcome to let us know and we can help you get that together.
Okay.
I don't know about now. Right now, Molly, are we allowed to do anything like that?
Not likely.
No, right
Okay.
now, because of the Anchorage mandate specifically, we're not allowed to in Anchorage.
Right. But
Now, other
normally,
locations
we would
still-
encourage field trips.
yeah, and so as soon as those mandates lift, you'll also start seeing more invitations from us for different activities. And we would love it for families and parents to say, hey, I want to put this together or offer this, and talk to us and we'll give you the materials or whatever you might need, and you lead that. That would be exceptional.
Yes. Last year we had a game night. It was a huge success. Everybody brought their favorite game or two, and we ended up buying a game that we'd never heard of because my kids had such fun with it at game night. So those are always a success whenever you have lots of kids bring different ideas of games and they get to see how they're played and everything else without having to read the 8 pages of directions. That's always better. Any other questions?
Can I ask a
Yes, Anna.
rough question? I didn't put it on the list.
That's okay.
What if your curriculum just is not connecting with your kids? What do you do then?
So if it's just not working, and whether that's online or whatever book curriculum was chosen or whatever, that's when you call your teacher. You call your contact teacher. By the way, Anna is also a contact teacher. She's in the Anchorage office with me and Molly, with myself and Molly. But if your curriculum is not working at all, call your contact teacher, let them know. We'll discuss maybe what curriculums are working, whether it be your literature or something. We'll kind of look and see how it's set up and see if we can find a curriculum in that other subject that's not working that works a lot like the ones that are working. Does that make sense? Okay. Good question, Anna. Any more questions? We tried to cover as much as we could think of.
This is Jennifer and Kodiak again, and this is
Okay.
this is a weird question, but just in case anybody else is in the same boat, I'm homeschooling largely because of COVID-19, and so grieving the loss of a lot of public school experiences, and one of them is school pictures. And I just wondered if there are other parents who like do something like school pictures, or if like, could I contact the school district and do private pictures with Life Touch, or just wondered if you had thoughts or answers related to that.
You know, honestly, I always take this is not our first day of school picture because I always forget the first day of school. So somewhere along, well, you're making me think of it now, but somewhere along September, I'll take a picture of them. But now if you're wanting like real pictures or whatever, you know, you could always call a photographer and then just say, would you consider offering homeschool photo sessions and do what would be more of the school district type pictures. But no, I've never done them. I don't know if anybody else has thought of doing them. I always just take their picture like outside our front door or something.
Maybe I'm the only one who has weird nostalgia about those silly school pics, but that's a good idea. And I wonder if any local photographer, they could probably just make a little money off that. There
I
might
would
be other.
think, yeah, since you're in Kodiak, I would think that they could probably post, you know, looking for, you know, were you looking for, you know, homeschool or school pictures? you know, anybody who's homeschooling, I'm offering a, you know, insert whatever. If you talk to somebody, they might be interested in offering something like that to get some photo sessions during the school day.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Any other questions? Everybody feels like they're ready to go and get going with their school. Nobody looked energetic.
We might be going. That doesn't mean it's great all the time.
We're all encouraged and we're ready to tackle this. Just
So I
remember,
guess just to like cliff notes the conversation, it is don't stress.
good one.
1 to 2 hours a day.
If you're, yes, for the youngest.
Okay. And if you meet the standards, cool. But if not, it's okay.
Right, you want to shoot for it, but you may not hit them all.
Okay.
But your curriculum should meet almost every single one. Like I said, they're set up to meet national standards.
Okay.
Alaska may have a few different ones added in there, but to meet the national standards, your curriculum is set up to meet those. So you may read a few extras and maybe try to implement an extra activity, but other than that, you're going to meet them.
Sounds good.
Okay. I guess the point would be don't stress too much. You will meet them sometimes without even realizing you're meeting them. And you'll
Okay.
go back and read them and be like, oh, we did that. Or, oh, that was in that one other activity that we discussed and they really got, or a lab or something. Okay.
I mean, I have a very type A husband that wants to take the standards and put it on like a big, like 11 by whatever paper
Okay.
so that we can like tick everything off. So it's just good to know that I really don't have to do that.
No, and there may be 4 or 5 of them that are covered in one lesson.
Okay.
And that's great because it just depends on the lesson and the subject, but you may be surprised how many get covered over and over and over.
Good. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
good with that then.
Good. And like I said, anytime you have questions, just give us a call. You know, we'll answer whatever. And if I don't know the answer, I'll ask Molly or Anna or somebody. So we're more than happy to answer any questions and help in any way that we can. That's our job. Anybody else have any questions before we end this?
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
As a classroom teacher for way too many years of experience, I always was very skeptical about homeschooling. I had good examples and I had almost good examples in my class homeschooling. But now when I end up being a homeschooling parent, I'm impressed.
Good.
And my own kids, now we're doing the kids, the science kids and the cooking kids and the art kids. And they were like, wow, Mom, you've been torturing us for so many years. Finally, you get an idea what to do.
Well, I'm glad they're enjoying it.
Before I've been doing Russian with them for years and was no progress. And now like, we have to do this for homeschool. She's going to grade us.
So now it matters.
Yeah, she's going to grade us.
Right? So now they're ready to learn it.
Well,
Perfect. Well, hopefully that goes really well.
yeah, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, so I guess we'll go ahead and end the call if nobody else has any other questions. Oh, hold on. I do see there were 2 chats. The free app Pomodoro is really great for measuring time. Oh, and then Julie had to leave. Okay, so there weren't any questions inside the chats. I just wanted to
Yeah,
make
I did
sure.
want to point out, because you were talking earlier about just taking chunks of time, and we've been homeschooling now this week, and I use this app for work. It's called Pomodoro. It's just a time app, and so it'll give you 25 minutes of work, and then it'll tell you when to take a break, and we do like a dance party for 5 minutes, and they've really been enjoying that. And I have a 1st grader and a 3rd grader, and they both, when they're having frustration, I'm like, okay, just 5 more minutes on the Pomodoro, and then we'll take a dance break. And I mean, it's been a few days, but it's so far working pretty well. So
It gives them a chance to get their wiggles out.
Exactly. And then it's like 5 minutes of PE every half hour or so, which is nice.
That's fantastic. So that's called Pomodoro. Did anybody else see that in the chats? It's Pomodoro.
Could you please respell that?
Pomodoro.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Yes, thank you, Stacy, for that one. Okay, so I guess we will go ahead and say goodbye. But if anybody has any questions, you're always welcome to call us and ask us those, okay?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You are very
Thank you for your
welcome.
time.
Thank you.
Bye,
Have a great
everyone.
day.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Okay. I don't know how to lock it.
How do you lock it? I think you go down to part where you're participating.